I was thinking about this yesterday. We're sitting in our family room, waiting to go home to be with the Lord, and like many of you probably were also, every time you heard that siren, boy, how was that? And we're sitting there watching Fox News, of course, and because that's what Jesus would do. And I'm just kidding, okay? Don't email me on that one. But we're watching Fox News. You know the update, the breaking news, and they have the ticker tape thing going down below. Lost in yesterday's tsunami warning was yet another earthquake in Argentina. Yeah, and so now I don't know how many of you knew this, and we'll talk about this in a moment, but I'm sitting there and I look at my bride and I say to her, I said, honey, did you just see that? Okay, you had Japan. Haiti's old news. You had Japan, you had, of course, Chile, and now you have Argentina in such close proximity. And, for those of you who have been married for a long period of time, you're going to understand what it is that I'm about to share with you, because my wife and I have been married for going on 22 years this year. I looked over at her, she looks at me, and no words needed to be exchanged. We knew exactly what the other person was thinking and, what the other person was, doing. And we just looked at each other, and it was as if we didn't have to say it. The Lord's coming. So it was kind of neat because we just broke out into a song. We just started praising God. Here we could be toast in a matter of minutes. and we started singing that song, one of my favorite songs. Soon and very soon we are gonna see the Lord. Boom, boom, boom. Soon. That's just how we sung it. I was the backup as well. She carried it. She was the lead vocals, but it was cool. So that we're singing this song, and we're singing the whole song, and our kids are looking at us with that with that deer in the headlights look like. Mom and Dad have lost it. They're over the edge. They're freaking us out. But no, I'm looking at this thing, I'm thinking, this is exactly what we're told was going to happen. And it's happening right before our very eyes. Now, I don't want to sound like we're morbid. We probably are, and I'm sure they have clinical terms for our behavior yesterday, but be that as it may, we also were keenly aware of how God, in His grace, spared the islands and the other coastal regions from what could have been an unspeakable, cataclysmic event with this tsunami. I believe it was the hand of God. The news said, well, we dodged a bullet. No, we didn't dodge a bullet. God spared us in His grace and in His mercy. And I don't think we have any idea of what was avoided yesterday. I want to talk a little bit about this because, of course, tsunamis are the result of an earthquake, and I found it interesting that this earthquake in Chile was one of the most powerful earthquakes ever recorded in history. Of course, the tsunami warning that resulted because of it was because of the enormity and the intensity of this particular earthquake and its geographical location. Now, here's what's interesting. There have been major earthquakes that are seemingly increasing in various places. Haiti, Japan, Chile, Argentina. When's the next one? And what's really even more interesting is they had some 70 plus aftershocks, some of which were over the 5-point mark on the Richter scale. So what's happening? Well, these earthquakes are taking place in these places, and they're coming, it seems like, with a greater intensity, and there's a shorter frequency. When I was online, before 11 o'clock when the first wave was to hit the Big Island. I've got, my computer screen in front of me, and then, of course, the TV screen there. We had our own little, prophetic tsunami center right there in my, it was really pretty cool, actually. So I went online to the USGS website. That's how you say it in Arabic. And it's interesting because according to the USGS website, as of yesterday, Saturday, February 27th, you ready for this? There had been 239 earthquakes just in the past 7 days. Now, granted, some of them are not, large earthquakes, but there have been that many earthquakes just in the last week. And then, of course, we have these major earthquakes, 3 of them just in the last 3 days. Now, this shouldn't really come as a shock, no pun intended, because Jesus said that this would happen just prior to the end of the world. I'm sure many of you yesterday had the Holy Spirit direct your hearts to the prophecies from Jesus himself about what would happen in the last days, specifically in Matthew chapter 24. Why don't you turn there, if you don't mind? If you don't have a Bible, that's okay. We have some Bibles there on the end of the pews. You can surely avail yourself of those. And I want to direct you to the 24th chapter in Matthew's Gospel. Matthew, if the Bible's new to you, is the first book of the New Testament and the first of the 4 Gospels. Now, let me set the stage here so you have an understanding of what's taking place here. Jesus has just really shocked the disciples by what he's told them about what's going to happen to their magnificent temple. They're there on the mount, doubtless, looking at the majestic temple that stood there on the Temple Mount, and Jesus basically predicts and gives them a prophecy that not one stone of the temple will be upon another. And of course, that would be fulfilled some 40 years later. Now, of course, the disciples are, quite disturbed, as well they should be. So in response to this, they're going to ask him a question about what will be the signs of the end of the age, or the end of the world. So we pick it up in verse 3, and Matthew records by the Holy Spirit that as Jesus was sitting on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately. "Tell us," they said, "when will this happen? And what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age?" Jesus answered, "Watch out that no one deceives you. For many will come in my name, claiming I am the Christ, and will deceive many." So in other words, the first sign that would determine when the end is near will be many who will claim to be the answer, claim to be the Messiah. But they will be a false Messiah or a false Christ. And Jesus is warning them to not be deceived. Now, if you go back into the last 100 years, you'll find history replete with those who have claimed to be the answer, the Messiah, the one. Now, we, in verse 6, continue on. "You will hear of wars and rumors of wars, but see to it that you are not alarmed. Such things must happen, but the end is still to come." Verse 7, "Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom." Now watch what he says here. "There will be famines and earthquakes in various places. All these are the beginning of birth pains." Now, if you have a King James version of the Bible, that's okay. You're still heaven bound and saved. That was pretty bad. No,